Welcome to the Fire Away Podcast. That is the Fire Away Podcast. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's do it.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Fire Away Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Meyer. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Fire_Away Podcast on Instagram. Check us out on anywhere you get your podcast now. Catch up on all episodes. We're about 40 episodes in. And we're kicking off a new year, new episodes, new guests. Actually, I have a new guest with me today. First time on the show, Mr. Mike Rich. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for
kicking
asking.
off this the new year, new shows that we got going on.
Yeah. Hey, before we get started, I do want to say, you guys do a great job with this. I mean, I listen to podcasts on and off, and I would say yours is equal or better to most of the ones I've listened to. So,
well, hey, I appreciate it, man. It's been a year, a little over a year. We're certainly working at it. I know listening to some of the first episodes, we were trying to figure it out as we go.
right.
It's a comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
I know for me and Fred, we can be in front of a microphone. We could talk all day long.
Yeah.
Especially if you just let us talk about ourselves.
Right.
The hard part is getting guests on and getting guests that will interact.
Right.
What we notice a lot of times is the people that we think are going to be great talkers will clam up in front of the microphone a little bit. So
Yeah. There was one in particular. I forgot his name, but he was like your food guy. He was like a foodie.
Yeah, Ricky.
And he was really like reluctant to talk. And you guys did a great job of coaxing stuff.
Yeah. So we were actually talking about having him back on because, as you can see in the corner today, we set up a little video to get some clips that we're going to start using for promotions. Right. And I think that episode would have been a good video episode.
Right.
But yeah, he was a little bit reluctant. No reluctant in eating everything that we asked him to eat, but yeah, and talking and going back and forth. Well, I do appreciate that, man. I'm glad you're a listener. We're definitely trying to grow our audience, and part of that is the different people that we have, right? Our employee spotlight, which I think we kind of narrowed down over the year about what we wanted this show to be about. Right? We had started with, and we've done some different things where we've just had episodes with no guests or we talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Right.
But these are my favorite, right?
Yeah.
The getting to know Mike Rich and whoever else comes on. Like I know you've worked here before, then you left and you came back, and we talk about it all the time. We just have so many people with such interesting backstories, and you would never know. And I know when we did some prep for this that you have 40-some years in the industry and experience, and I would have had no idea. So can you mind telling me a little bit about that?
No, not at all. I started in 1986. That's when I started. And to go back even beyond that, I was working at a place called Welch Allyn.
Okay.
Welch Allyn is, people don't realize it. If you go to the doctors and you sit in a little room and you wait for them to come in and do your vitals, look at they call them the ophthalmoscopes and the otoscopes. Those are things they look in your eyes and your ears with. I will bet you a paycheck that is from Welch Allyn. They had like 95% of the world market making those devices. And so what I did was I was a mechanical drafter for them when I got out of college. And basically you just spend all day on the computer, just like they revise a part, you change the part, save the file, print stuff. It's just very repetitive, boring. But people stay there. It's like it's a lot like Fireline. People there are there for years because there's really not a lot of work in that area. But I was getting super bored. I was 20 at the time. I was 22, 23 years old, and I was just dying. It's funny. I was making. Well, I get into that in a minute. But so I was looking for a change. So 1986, Easter of 1986. Came down here with my future wife, who we were just dating at the time, and to see her brother, who lived in Alexandria, Virginia. And he basically had moved down, and he was working at he was like a programmer, working at some computer place. But I fell in love with the Washington area, just the history and all that stuff. Didn't even realize about Baltimore. But I was like talking to him, asking him questions like, what would it take to get into this area? He's like, well, it's really expensive to get down here. You might want to look at Baltimore. So I started looking at Baltimore, and then I was We used to do stuff the old-fashioned way. You get look for want ads in the paper.
I
So-
remember that.
So I got a subscription to the Washington Post, Baltimore Sun, a bunch of different stuff, and I had these papers. And the one and only time the Chesapeake Sprinkler in Odenton, Maryland, no, actually they were in Glen Burnie at that time, advertised in the Washington Post. They were looking for a sprinkler designer. And I'm like, I was thinking lawn sprinklers or something, like everybody does. So I sent him a resume, get a call. It's like Dave Anderson, one of the Anderson brothers, he calls me. He's like, hey, he goes, I want to talk to you. Okay. so I make plans and I come down and I just drove down by myself, stayed with my brother-in-law, went through the interview. And it's the best interview in the world because I talked to Dave for 45 minutes and I said maybe 10 words. He just kept talking about his vision and what he wanted to do and all this other stuff. And when the interview's done, he's like, he goes, I want to hire you. He goes, I really like you. And I'm like, okay. Thanks.
Fine by
I don't
me.
know what I did, but okay. So I said, all right, well, so what's your offer? Well, he offered me like a third of what I was making. And it was like, he goes, I said, I can't do that. I said, I'm living up there. I'm making way more than you're willing to pay me. I own my own house. I've got 2 renters, 2 guys that live with me. They pay my mortgage. I don't pay anything for that. I said, everything I make is just cash money. I was just spending money like a millionaire, it's like, so this is crazy, but to make a change, I'm going to have to think about this. So I went back, talked to my father about it. He goes, you're nuts. He goes, what are you talking about? You're not going to do that. I was like, I don't know. I said, I think I got to give it a shot. I was like, I'm slowly dying here. He goes, well, I have to do what you got to do. So between Easter and September, I quit my job, packed everything up, gave a 4-week notice, moved to Maryland, got engaged, and then got married, and was living in Baltimore. Started working in the first weekend in July. I started July 3rd, and it's just like that, just a complete
That was a busy
180.
busy spring there.
Yep.
So for a 20-year-old spending money like a millionaire, living
Yep.
a dream in New
Yep.
York,
Yep.
and then next thing you know,
And living like a pauper.
you're married in Baltimore, right? Making a third.
Yep.
So and I know you were saying like you were working on computers back in the '80s, so this was nothing like what we
Yeah,
had.
no, nothing.
Yeah.
It was the craziest thing. Before that, I worked at this place where we were a subcontractor for businesses because they couldn't afford their own computers. We would print reports, and there was a big steel mill. So I worked overnights, and all I was a computer operator. I just made sure the computer had paper. It was like the old, like the wheels working,
Yeah.
all that stuff like you see in the old movies and stuff. I mean, it was just nuts. So you just hit a button and you just wait for like 2 hours. So being the young and dumb guy I was, I would go to the bar. So I just lock the door. We'd go to the bar, meet my buddies down there, have a few beers, and then come back, make sure everything was still going.
And
Go
it's
back
still
out to the bar,
Such a different time, wasn't it?
Yep.
So you went to college and everything up in New York as
Yep.
well. And I know you were telling me you had were your degrees in computer
Yes.
engineering or whatever.
Yeah, I did programming for a little bit, like a little bit of computer programming, but it was like so different from what it is now, And but I did that only because it was part of my degree, and then I found out what it really was. It's like being an accountant, the same kind of thing. So this Allen thing came up. I would make more money, so I did that, and I switched over to do that. So
It wasn't really that computers were your passion. It was
No.
more just gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering when you're doing the programming and you're working with computers, but it was just
yeah, it was a drag.
just just a drag. I mean, you knew in your 20s that you wanted to get out of it,
Yeah.
and that's a big leap of faith when
Yeah.
you're in your 20s. And
Yeah, I had so many people when I made that decision that I was coming down, and when they found out the specifics, they go, "Do you know anyone down there?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, my Amy's brother lives, but he lives like half hour, 45 minutes away, and like, so you're basically going to a new area where you don't know. And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much."
I mean, we're not talking across the country, but it's still,
Yeah.
it's still a
400
big
miles
road.
from where I
Yeah.
grew up. And it turns out, it actually was probably the best decision I made because it got me away. I probably would have gotten married anyways. Probably that year or the next year, and it got me away from the family dynamic where you have like all those influences, the in-laws and my parents.
You guys could start your own life.
And it was
away
just
from
it was
everybody.
just us, it was just me and her, and we had to deal with all our problems on our own, and it made our marriage stronger, and we're still married today. So I mean,
That's an old school way of thinking. You
Yeah.
know, get away from the parents, and we're going to do this on our own.
yep,
That's
yep,
not
absolutely.
that's not very new age,
Yeah.
if you will. So was she opposed to the move, or was she all about it as well?
No, not at all. Actually, it took her by surprise because when I decided, I didn't even say, hey, like talk to her about it. I'd committed, and she's like,
Guess we're moving.
"Hey, what? So what does that mean about us?" It's like, well, I don't know. You want to move? It's like basically, it's like I kind of forced her hand.
Yeah, that's a good way to find out if she likes you that much.
Yeah,
Huh?
exactly. Yep.
That's awesome, man.
Walked through a mall, bought her a diamond.
So what I find, you had told me that you were a Ravens fan and an Oriole fan, and I'm thinking you grew up in New York. How does that happen?
Yeah, well, I was a Yankee fan for years, but I don't talk about that. Those are the dark days.
The dark days, huh? That's back when they were good, though.
Yeah, in the 70s and the 80s.
I mean, they're always been good, but you know what I mean. The
Yeah.
dynasty era
Yeah.
of the Yankees.
Yeah, my dad was a Yankee fan. He was a Joe DiMaggio fan, so.
When you go back home, do they give you flack now?
No, not really.
No.
No, they're kind of over that.
That's good. I'm not. I hate the Yankees. I'm always going to hate the Yankees.
I know. I hate them with a passion now. It's like,
Yeah, yeah. We could do a whole podcast on how much we hate the Yankees. Well, that's good, man. I know. So you're in here. You're doing this. You make the change to the sprinkler place. You're working there. What gets you out of that?
it gets me out of
But why did you leave that job?
what job?
The sprinkler place that you moved down here for.
Oh, it was. I was always moving up. There was always something else. In some of the stuff that I told you, like I've done different things. I've designed. I've project managed. I led design teams. I was the design manager. I've done purchasing. I've done a bunch of different stuff. But it was always somewhere there was an opportunity. The big thing with Chesapeake, the Anderson, it was all family. It was all brothers, and eventually you're going to reach a ceiling. You're going to reach a point. And
You're not getting one of their positions.
Yeah. And I went to, I had an honest conversation. I went to Jim. I said, Jim, one of the brothers, the leader of the group, and I said, I mean, it's pretty obvious that there's only so far you can go here. And then you've all got kids. Those kids are coming up, and they all are interested. They're all going to go to school. They're all either in school or starting to go to school for engineering. So he goes, yeah. He goes, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. It's like, you're pretty astute to notice the
change is coming. Yeah.
yeah,
Or
so-
not coming. I should
right,
say.
exactly. So I said, so what does that mean? He's like, well, he goes, you're a great employee. You can always stay here. He goes, but I certainly would respect if you decided you had to move on to something else. So that's what I did. So. And,
When did you originally come to Fireline? How long ago was that?
man, that's a good question. I've bounced around quite a bit. I know it was pre-COVID because I left when COVID was just starting to hit its stride.
So that would have been middle 2020.
Yeah, it was like right around when everybody went, remote.
Okay.
It was during that time frame, and that was only because the work was just drying up, and it was just like I don't know. I wasn't sure. Talking with Ted Reiterer was the manager at that point, and I was like, what's going on with the sprinkler side? He's like, no, it's tough, So I kind of saw. You learn over time in our business that you can see patterns and you can see stuff, and so you just kind of got to try to get ahead of it as much as you can. So I probably panicked. I probably didn't have to go. But
There was a lot of that time.
Yeah,
During
so-
that time,
so-
nobody was a lot of unsure. People didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
What was going on? Didn't know what to expect out of the future.
Right.
So you leave there. So you left the sprinkler. You come to Fireline.
Uh-huh.
You leave. You come back. So what are you doing now for Fireline?
Design.
You're
Just
so
sprinkler
that's
design.
that's your
Yeah.
your comfort, your bread and butter.
Yeah, it's a bread and butter. Yep. But
So-
like I say, there's so much more I can offer. It just haven't the opportunity hasn't presented itself. So I just I'll stay in my lane. I'll help out whatever he needs.
Yeah,
Chris
I mean,
is-
from experience, you put your
Yeah.
time in. You,
Yeah.
you get those opportunities.
Yeah, Chris is a great guy. Working for Chris, I like him a lot. So
We had Chris on the show.
yeah,
Very interesting.
he's got a
individual.
he's got a great history.
I don't think we've yet to match that history.
No, and he couldn't even tell you half of the stuff.
I know, right? We keep saying Fireline After Dark, and we'll have Chris back on the uncensored version. So, what do you like to do in your free time? How do you unwind from the sprinkler design?
A good cigar. I had to cut back drinking. I was drinking a little.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. It's, but
What was your go-to?
nice bourbon. Yeah.
Okay. You got a
Yes.
favorite cigar?
I drink I smoke. I like Honduran cigars. I don't know if any of you guys are cigar aficionados.
I smoke a lot. I wouldn't. I am a variety guy. I like to try something new all the time.
Right.
I have my go-to. I don't. I mean, I have my go-to. I have my favorite.
Right.
But Honduras that's like my father's cigar. I think is a Honduras cigar. I love those.
They're a mild. They're more mild. You find very few harsh cigars. They don't leave like a strong aftertaste. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Which is what I like about it.
I agree. I like a mild cigar. I don't need to get a buzz off of a cigar.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? I don't get up and be, oh, I'm lightheaded from smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
And then I wake up in the middle of the night still tasting it in
Yeah.
my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've got this one. It's called Sancho Panza. Is the one that is my go-to.
Sancho Panza.
Yeah.
Now, who's the manufacturer of it?
I don't know.
No?
That's just the name of
I
it.
need stats and information here, Mike. We have a stats and information guy. He'll be pulling this up on the screen as we're talking, but we'll get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Rocky Patel guy myself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I do like Rockies are good. I had a Cohiba over the weekend. That
can't go wrong.
was nice.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't go wrong there. But you can get some of those too that are really strong.
Yeah. But I haven't met a cigar I won't at least try. They're like you get into punches and stuff like that, and I can only do so many. I can't buy a box of punch. There's no way.
There's been a couple where as soon as you get that first couple drags, you're like, this isn't for me.
Right.
You can usually tell right away.
Yeah.
And then you get a couple that are really smooth, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to take the name of this one down because I know that I'm going to come back to this.
Yeah.
And I've had my few. It's probably since I was 18 or 19 smoking. And I don't smoke as much anymore. I just don't have the time.
Right.
And the same, I was a bourbon guy. Then now I'm a tequila guy. So
Yeah.
I switched to tequila. And I just find that it's better on my body. It's better on how I feel anyway.
Right.
And I don't know any scientific stuff behind it. And I
Right.
hear a bunch of stuff, but whatever. I know what it makes me feel like.
Well, do you drink the clear tequila or the
I'm
yellow?
a clear guy.
They say that like any liquor that's clear, the way they process it is better because there's not as much, for lack of a better term, crap in it. You know?
Yeah.
So if you stick to clear liquids or clear liquors, you're probably better off. As far as
Yeah, my tequila doesn't match well with a cigar like a bourbon did.
Right.
But it's just what I had to do. Look, if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to make a switch.
right. Yeah, I have one vice left, and that's cigars. And my wife is constantly like, you got to cut back. It's like, yeah, I know, I should, but
So how often are you smoking?
probably a couple a week.
Couple.
Three,
Oh yeah,
two,
you got
3 a
me.
week.
Yeah, that's old Reggie Burton numbers right there. He's
Yeah.
probably smoking 2 or 3 a week.
Yeah. At my peak, I was doing 2 a day.
Oh yeah, envious. Old Winston Churchill over here. I want to get to that. I want to aspire to smoke 2 a day. I'm thinking when my daughter gets older and she hates it, and if we're camping, I'll smoke cigars.
Yeah.
She she doesn't understand. What
Right.
I've never see you do that. What are you doing that for? It doesn't
Right.
make sense to her. So I just try not to do it.
Yeah.
So, I want to stay up and not start smoking cigars until 9 o'clock at night when she
Right.
goes to bed.
Yep.
I just have to lay off of them.
Yeah.
So what do you, you're smoking cigars, you got your bourbon.
Uh-huh.
You got anything else you're into, man?
No,
I
not
know you
really.
say you're watching sports. And,
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Pretty simple?
Yeah, my life is pretty much vanilla.
Yeah. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. You
No kids, so
No.
I don't have any of those distractions where you got to go to soccer and
This
all that
guy's living
stuff.
the life over here. No kids smoking cigars, drinking bourbon.
That's right.
Man. So, you look. Do you guys get back up to New York much?
Yeah, well, we went up recently because my mother-in-law passed, but But we don't. We try to go up like once a year. We got some old friends that we still hang out with, which is always a good time. And but we don't get up as much as we used to.
Your Auburn area.
Yes. Are you familiar with that area?
I am from driving through. That's about it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful area. I do
yeah.
know that. It's
Yeah.
it's absolutely gorgeous, upstate New York. And then I'm a college football fan, so I'm familiar with that part of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Syracuse football is relevant again.
yeah,
So, when you say upstate New York, people always get confused because upstate, if you're like, first of all, New York is the city. That's all. That's all. When you say New York, everyone thinks one of the 5 boroughs, which is wrong. Because from where I lived in Auburn to get to New York City took longer for me to get to New York than it would have from my house in Baltimore.
oh wow,
That's how big
I
New
don't
York
think
State
people
is.
understand how big it is.
How big the state is, east to west, and but upstate is to New York, to New Yorkers, is going up towards Albany and Poughkeepsie and those places, those counties which are just to the west and to the north. They consider that upstate. So you have to say upstate central New York so that you get people directed over to where Syracuse is, which is in the dead center of the
I
state.
got you. Now it's a lot more rural up that way,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Yeah, I know. And again, my knowledge of it is just from driving through.
Yeah.
When we go up to Canada, we take that way. We have to
Yeah.
go up through New York
Yeah.
because it's such a pretty drive.
yeah, yeah. That where I grew up was kind of similar to like some of the places of like Baltimore County, Howard County, Frederick area. It's like that. You know what I mean?
Little,
It's like
got a little bit of mountains.
Yeah,
here
a
and
little
there.
town, and then there's a bunch of just farmland, and then a few little areas to go fishing and stuff like that.
So, and then when I think of upstate New York, I think of winters up there, right?
Brutal.
Right. So are you a fan? Are you a fan of winter guy?
Not at
No?
all. That was
No.
another reason I wanted to get out.
Okay.
So it's
Just get tired of it.
yeah, I when we were up there for my mother-in-law, they had snow, which they haven't had snow in like any significant thing. It's kind of like it's almost weird because it's the last few years they haven't had as much snow in Syracuse or that area where my sister-in-law lives. We stayed with her, and they had like 6 inches one day. So I'm out there smoking a cigar with a leaf blower, just blowing the snow around. And my wife got it on video. It's like that's the first time I had to move snow in like years. It's like and I was just like a kid in the candy shop. It's like I was having a blast.
I noticed that too, and where my in-laws are in West Virginia. When I first started going up there 15 years ago, by this time of year, they've probably had 50, 60 inches of snow.
Yeah.
They don't get nothing like that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, even in this area, we were good for a good snowstorm a year, and it's been 3 years. I think,
Yeah.
with the front that's coming in shortly, they're talking about it's the first time in 4 or 5 years there's going to be significant snow on the
Yeah.
ground. Which I know Matt's over here shaking his head because he's not a winter guy either. I don't like the snow. Don't get me wrong. Snow is just an annoyance.
Right.
But this 20-degree weather, sign me up for that all day.
Yeah.
I want to go. I go outside and load my car up in the morning with my shirt off still. Like just give me this. I need it.
See, I'm a hot weather guy.
Yeah.
I am one of those fools. I'll drive with the windows down.
That's mine. That's my new personal fan. Usually it's on while we're in the podcast studio. Somebody brought a heater in here the other day. I'm like, you gotta get out. It's 63. I'm watching it. It used to get up to almost 80 in here, man. This is nice.
Yeah. So. But the weather is the weather patterns of I don't. There's. You listen to everybody. It's like global warming or climate change. I don't believe that. I think it's just weather patterns just change.
I think it's just the way it is. I think right. I think everything's just a big circle. But I'm too stupid to know anything about that. I'm not. I can get into conspiracy because you can trick me into believing almost anything, and I'm just there for the fun of it. But yeah, I agree. Like it just seems to go. Like you said, it's a pattern. It goes and it's cold and it's hot and it's cold. And the last winter was a fairly cold winter, and this winter was starting off that way. And I feel like it's been a really cold winter already. And if you look at the extended forecast for January, it's going to be a cold month.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much snow will come with it, but we were just up in the mountains and we left before they were getting snow. And I was like, you're starting to see it come back now. The
Right.
forecast, like, okay, because your 100 inches of snow a year that you haven't gotten in years could be coming back.
Right.
Right. So that pattern could be coming back around. And like
Yeah.
you said, I don't get into whether
Yeah.
it's global warming or the ice caps are melting or it's cow farts. I don't really understand any of it, but
I think too the thing that's funny is like everyone seems to think it's like our fault. It's America's fault because when we're really not the producers of most of the problems that all this stuff is caused from. It's like there are other countries that are causing way more than we are. So
yeah, I don't think you can say it's America. I think you could more say it's a human fault.
yeah,
There's 7 billion of us on the planet. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That's probably a problem.
yeah,
The stuff that we're doing is probably the problem. It's probably can't narrow it down to one country. I'm sure you can. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that can absolutely do that. But it's just like you said, it's a pattern.
yeah,
At some point, something's going to happen that this population isn't going to be 7 billion.
right.
What's that going to be?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Hey, there's drones flying around New Jersey right now. I don't know if you've seen it. There's chemical fog going out in the mountains. I don't know, man. Hey, look, it could be a fun year. That's all I know. I'm strapped up. I'm ready to go. Well, Mike, look, man, this has been super awesome. You have come on here and really did exactly what I love when people do, man. You come on here, you tell us your story, you tell us your interest. It's fascinating. I did not know that you had that kind of experience in what you're doing here.
Yep.
I feel like you must be a fantastic part of the team. And I'm sure if I was to bring who was it now that it's not Ted Ken in here, he would tell me the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and you're not a Yankees fan, so I'm a fan of yours now, Mike. And you smoke cigars, you drink bourbon, you don't have children. You might be my favorite guest so far,
Yeah.
man.
Now, we've got to talk some Orioles though before we go because
Hey, we could talk Orioles. I know people listen like, oh, turn it off now. We're gonna go back into the Orioles. You talk about them losing Corbin Burns and not re-signing him.
yes, I've gone down the Facebook rabbit hole with all this talk about what we need pitching wise and stuff like that. And for all the Oriole fans that are listening, I just want to say just be thankful we got a team that's relevant. We're even talking about the fact that we're adding pieces to take us to the next level.
We're spoiled in Baltimore. We get spoiled real easy. I know I'm spoiled as a Ravens fan for sure. And the same with the Orioles. The Orioles have been relevant for 2 years now, and then we're already spoiled and complaining that we don't have pitching. But and the whole Corbin Burns thing. I mean, the guy turned down more money to go live in Arizona. So good for you, buddy.
Yeah.
He's 30 years old. He wants to go to where his wife lives at. And,
Don't
and
blame
live
him at
there.
all. That's the whole point of free agency.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kurt Flood.
Yeah.
People don't realize that Kurt Flood in the '60s, he's the one that got the whole thing started. And it's only because he didn't want to be basically an indentured player to
Stuck somewhere forever.
Yeah. So
And then the Yankees came in the 80s and ruined baseball forever. So good job, New York, just buying everybody. We can talk about that on another podcast, a Yankee Hater podcast. You know
sign
Jeffrey.
me up.
Yeah, you remember the whole Jeffrey Mayer.
oh yeah.
Yeah. That was just the beginning of my Yankee hatred. It's been in my blood since I was born.
Yeah.
I was raised to hate the Yankees.
Yeah, I see that you see that on YouTube every now and then, that play, and it's just like I just don't understand how that umpire should have been. I mean, he should have been removed from baseball forever. How can you make that call?
I love that he ends up in the Orioles organization. Like, if that's not how the world works, the Orioles wind up drafting this guy out of college or high school. I don't know what it was, but I know at some point he was in the minor league organization for the Orioles. Yeah, I'm excited though. Like you said, we get spoiled. It's a relevant team. They're going to win games. They're they might finish second or third in the division, and that's not no test to them. We're in just an unbelievable division of baseball where you're probably going to have 4 of the best teams in baseball out of the division.
Yeah.
So,
and I think they're good. I think the kids are going to shock. Westberg's going to go to another level. I think we're going.
He's my favorite Oriole.
Oh, I love that.
I think he's the most underrated Oriole.
I want to adopt him. I need a child. I'm going.
No, you don't, Mike. I'm telling you, they're overrated. I love my daughter. Kids are overrated. And look, Jordan Westbrook, he's already established. You know what? That might not be a bad year. He's in his 20s, and he's a millionaire. He's going to be a millionaire if he's not already.
Yeah.
I love the adjustments that he makes at the plate.
Yeah.
To me, as a former player, it just, and I say that like I was actually some kind of sexual engineer. It just sounded really good. But as a baseball fan,
Right.
you watch this guy, and he might struggle or have a bad at bat, but he never has 4 bad at bats in a game.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Cal Ripken. Cal used to make those adjustments in every at bat, every plate appearance.
Yep.
He was making an adjustment, and Westberg's kind of a little bit like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus he plays the game the right way.
Yeah, he's a little B.J. Surhoff. Remember how
Yeah.
B.J. Surhoff
Yeah.
used to play the game?
Absolutely.
There wasn't a ground ball he didn't hustle down the
Right.
first baseline.
Yep. And defense he's an exceptional defender. I mean, it's hard to play second and third base. He can switch like it. And it's just like it
These
doesn't
guys,
matter.
and they make it look so easy. Just watching anything.
Yeah.
Some of the things that they do, the throws and and you're like, as as a baseball fan, like I said, you watch it and you appreciate it because you know that it's not that easy.
No.
That these guys are making them.
No, and that's that was the beauty with Ripken. Going back to Ripken, if you ever noticed him, which not a lot of people talked about, he was never out of position. That's why he played so many consecutive games, is because he never, it's like he had the anticipation and he knew.
He was the middle linebacker of the infield.
Right.
I mean, you were smart. You studied the game.
Right.
And nowadays they have the StatCast and the stats, and these guys know, they study where every player is going to be because they look at a tablet before.
Right.
All right, well, these guys are coming up this inning.
Right.
I know I need to play here. Back then they didn't have that.
Right.
He had to do that work himself. And I think it's a testament to his coaches, to his managers, or his dad was a manager and he was very smart. I think from what I hear, that Billy Ripken was a really smart player as well.
Right.
I
Billy
think
was just a goof.
Yeah, he was. Well, I mean, you almost have to be if you're Billy Ripken. Right? There's shoes to fill that were impossible. So, oh boy, I love the old Billy Ripken F-face baseball card. That was a classic when you were growing up. Look it up if you don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Billy Ripken baseball card. That's all you got to Google, and you'll see the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
Were you ever into baseball cards?
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
Very, very long time
Man,
ago.
that's probably 10 to 16. It's all my dad and I did was baseball cards.
Yeah.
We would go set up at shows. And,
Oh, wow.
we had, and I still have a pretty extensive collection in boxes in my sister's basement, and garage, and I have some in my basement. We've sold some of them because I'm just too lazy to go through them because there's the value just isn't there anymore. But it was such a fun thing to do back then.
Yeah, now they got this, like all these electronic ones and stuff. I still don't understand how does that work,
I don't know. The whole fun was sitting up at a show and seeing what everybody else had and people coming around and
Right.
you know,
And you used to trade, like,
Trade card,
you
yeah.
And they would trade like this guy for that guy.
it was like my first job, man. You get a little bit of cash in your pocket for selling some things, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I remember and when I was playing in little leagues, and my parents would like, I was a pitcher back then. And it's like every strikeout will send you to the store and you can buy a pack of cards for every strikeout. So that was my motivation.
Right.
And if I strike out 5 guys, I can go to the store and buy 5 packs of baseball cards. So that was fun. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mike. Hey, this has been a great episode. I feel like we've touched on everything. We have certainly established you're my new favorite person here. Orioles, Ravens, bourbon, cigar, no children. I mean, what can this guy's living the dream, Mike. No, thank you very much, man. It's been great having you on. I thank you for your time today.
Sure, no problem.
And thank you for reaching out to say that you were interested in coming on the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and anybody out there, if you're interested in coming on the show, if you see me, Fred, or Matt around the office, let us know. You can email us at the Fireway Podcast at Fireline. It might be Fireway Pod at Fireline. I'm not sure. Start typing in Fireway. Something will pop up.
Yeah.
But
I watch it on YouTube.
on you, there you go. You're our one YouTube watcher. YouTube is not a very...
I say watch. I listen.
Yeah, listen. Hey, look, we got our video, so we're going to give this thing a shot.
Yeah. Has it been on the whole time?
Looks like it.
Really?
Yeah, so...
All right. Good. I got the microphone in my way. You can't really see my face.
That's good. Now we're good, man. We're gonna blow up the YouTube stats here with our pretty faces. But yeah, so YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, Apple, anywhere you get your podcast, check out the Fireway Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Fire_Way Podcast, and we'll talk to you next time.